Welcome today to New York Buddhist Church's Shotsuki Hoyo monthly memorial service, broadcast live from our Hondo Worship Hall. We extend our greetings to all of our Sangha members and friends. We are happy that you are able to join today's service from home. Please listen attentively and respectfully and let the New York Buddhist Church Hondo come to you as we chant together, as we chant with one voice. We will begin today's service with the Sambujo, the three respectful callings. After this is the Hyobyakumon, dedication and reading of names. Following this, we'll have the chanting of the Sutra Shoshinge from verses 25 through 30, with chanting of Nembutsu and Ekoku. Please join your hands together in GYAKU-AKU when we chant O Nembutsu. You also may wish to offer incense during the chanting of Sutra. After Sutra will come the Vandana and Tisarana in today's reading, meditation number 4. Reverend Earl will then give the Gobunsho, Shonin Ichiryu no Sho, the chapter on the teachings of Shinran Shonin, in the original Japanese and in English. Please bow your heads and listen attentively to Renyo-sama's words. Reverend Earl Ikeda then will give today's Dharma message. To end service, we will sing Nembutsu together. Nama Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Oh Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Homage to the Buddha Amida, the Buddha of immeasurable life, the Buddha of wondrous light, the Buddha who made the unconditional vow to embrace all beings. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha, to his actions, his speech, his thoughts. We're able to understand something about Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, the land of bliss, and our purpose for living. Homage to all the countless numbers of Buddhas who exist throughout this universe. Jippo Nyorai, who embraces each and every one of us and guides us through our many ups and downs of life. As we scatter the fragrance of universal truth, the Dharma, we welcome all Buddhas here to this place of worship. Reverently we gather this morning to reflect upon the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha's vows to embrace each and every one of us unconditionally, to help us walk our paths, knowing that we're never, ever alone. As we reflect upon this wondrous vow, we realize how difficult life is, and yet no one is abandoned. So we come today to reflect the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha's promise, and through the many countless numbers of people that we have encountered in our lifetime. Today, as we reflect upon those who passed away during the month of June, Shotsuki Hoyo, we are truly indebted, for they too returned into this world to guide us, to embrace us, just like the Buddha. It is therefore my privilege to name the names of those who passed away. Deborah Allen, Tim Arai, Pearl Cohen, Jim Dugan, Kimiko Eguchi, Takashi Himata, Yoko Ichikawa, Hiroshi Kaneko, Toyoko Kikuchi, Sharon Kim, June Kishi, Michael Leonard, Hatsu Masu, Richard Matsushita, Kayoko Mitani, Soko Morinaga, John Nagahiro, Ichie Nakamura, Richard Nishikawa, Saika Sakae Nishimura, Alice Okada, Taka Okada, Gennosuke Shimamoto, Masayo Shimamoto, Oiwa Shimamoto, Taiko Shirakigawa, Lieutenant Marcus Stoltz, Mitsuko Takaishi, Kiyo Tomita, Shinako Tomita, Tomizo Tomita, Akira Washio, and may we reflect upon the lives of all those who passed away through the coronavirus, and in their own way come back to embrace us and guide us upon our personal life. We are truly grateful if we exchange or we hear the name of the Buddha by responding to the Buddha's call, Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.
GYAKU-AKU
So
Today's reading is from the meditation readings, number 4. As the sun shines upon the earth, awakening into growth the seeds that lie dormant in the soil, may the light of wisdom shine into our minds and truly awaken us to our own ignorance, and by this insight, stir us to strive for deeper meaning and understanding and enlightenment. Today's Gobunsho is Shonin Ichiryu no Sho, the essence of our teachings. Shonin Ichiryu no go kanke no omomuki wa shingi no motte honto serare soro. Sono yue wa moro moro no zogyo o nagesutete isshin mida ni kimyo sureba gashi no ngan riki to shite buddha no kata yori ojo ajijo seshimeta mo sono kurai o 1年ぽっき入賞上始終とも釈しその上の称名念仏った如来我が往生定め玉井心言法人の念仏と心べきなりあなかしこあなかしこ Chapter on the teaching of Shinran Shonin. Our founder Shinran Shonin taught that the essence of Jodo Shinshu is true and trusting Shinji. This reason is that by abandoning all unnecessary practices and completely trust ourselves in Amida Buddha and what Amida Buddha represents, our spiritual rebirth is assured by Amida through the inconceivable and wondrous power of the primal vow. This is known as entering the ranks of the truly assured at the very moment of Shinji. Thereafter, all utterances of the Nembutsu should be understood as only expressions of gratitude for Amida's assurance of our spiritual rebirth. With reverence, I remain. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. Ohayou gozaimasu. Thank you very much for tuning in to our weekly service. And I'd like to read a passage that just came from the Shoshin Nembutsu. This is often referred to the second half, where Shinran is referring to ZEN-DŌ, who is a Shantao of China, a great Chinese monk of the Zen tradition, who said, I believe in Amida Buddha, and I believe that the only way we can be saved is by calling his name. So he felt that this is the essence of our teachings, or Nembutsu, calling the Buddha's name in gratitude. But along with this, he wrote several things that express the other masters, of which I like to recite something from Genshin. Genshin Kokai Ichirai Kyo, Henki Anyo Kangi Sai, Senzo Shushin Hansenjin, Hoken Nido Shobendu, Gokuju Akunin Yui Shobutsu, Gyaku-Zai Hiseshu, Bonno Shogen Suifuken, Dai-Himuken Jo-Shoga. Genshin, having broadly elucidated the teachings of Shakyamuni's lifetime, wholeheartedly took refuge in the land of peace and urges us all to do so. Ascertaining that minds devoted to single practice are profound, to Sanjay practices shallow, he set forth truly the difference between the fulfilled land and the transformed land. The person burdened with extreme evil should simply say the name, Namo Amida Butsu. Although I too am within Amida's grasp, passions obstruct my eyes and I cannot see him. Nevertheless, great compassion is untiring and illumines me always. Thank you, Genshin. I like this particular passage because it awakens me to who I am and my true nature. Some of you may have received through email something that was brought up by and approved by the majority of the board of directors. And so therefore it becomes one of the rules that we here in New York City observe. And it is a statement, it is entitled Statement from the New York Buddhist Church to address what's going on in now, the chaos. The New York Buddhist Church deplores all forms of racism, oppression, and injustice. Everyone deserves to be heard and treated with dignity and respect, and to live without fear of emotional or physical abuse. Recent events have once again shown us how our country and society would not and should not remain silent when discrimination results in shocking and needless deaths. We cannot accept acts of racism and injustice, and we cannot accept any institutional support, implicit or otherwise, of those acts. As a Buddhist community, Sangha, we stand with Black Lives Matter and all people who peacefully protest injustice and equality, and who seek a more equal and just society. Our values statements affirm that we listen, speak, and act with compassion, respect, and gratitude, because we believe that everyone can be enlightened. And therefore, I thank the board of directors and all those who approved. It was a very difficult thing to do, but we felt that this is what we need to do. And for me, especially, it was somewhat challenging. As some of you know, I come from Hawaii. Yes, in Hawaii, we do have, discrimination, but it's a way of life. We make fun of each other, we live together in harmony, knowing that there are differences. And through these differences, we enrich ourselves, and this is what is known as Hawaii. I also would like to thank one of our members who sent me something. And I'd like to read that too. Like an unchecked cancer, hate corrodes the personality and eats away its virtual unity. Hate destroys a man's sense of values and his objectivity. It causes him to describe the beautiful as ugly and the ugly as beautiful, and to confuse the true with the false and the false with the true. Like an unchecked cancer, hate corrodes the personality and eats away its vital unity. Hate destroys a man's sense of values and his objectivity. It causes him to describe the beautiful as ugly and the ugly as beautiful, and to confuse the true from the false and the false from the true. Apparently this was taken for Dr. Martin Luther King in one of his famous lecture speeches. I believe in what we stand for. All my life I've tried to study the teachings, but as I mentioned before, the more I study, the less I know. However, there comes a time we all have to make a decision, so it took me a while to decide who and what I am and what I represent. I will share a personal story with you. In my youth, my father told me a story about my grandfather. My grandfather came from Japan, Hiroshima, during about the turn of the century. And like all contracted laborers who worked in the plantation, he came to Hawaii together with my grandmother to not only make their fortune, but also to go home to be able to share the wealth that they would acquire. Unfortunately, when they came to Hawaii, they realized that the situations were not ideal. There were no gold streets. There were not diamonds all over the place. Instead, 6 days a week, sometimes even 7, they had to endure hard labor. So quite often we'll say, perhaps that's a nice way of saying that they were paid slaves. So that concept of slavery is not unusual to Japanese Americans, especially to the first generation. And I'm sure that after they finished their contract in Hawaii, some of them ventured on to the mainland here, continental USA, and endured similar issues. As someone has told me, I don't think that there's any ethnic group that migrated to America that did not go through some ups and downs. This is true. Ask any person from an ethnic background what their ancestors had to go through, and you'll see similar stories, similar issues. However, for whatever reason, as we look at the Black Americans or African Americans, Somehow in my heart, I feel for them because of the fact of what my ancestors went through. But my father also said that, or described my grandfather as being a very just person. In those days, if you worked on the plantation, there was only one person who rode a horse, and he was often referred to as a luna. A luna is like a work manager, and he would spend the whole day sitting on his horse, and he had a whip, and the whip would be cracked when he felt that he had to work hard, or for that matter, if he saw someone slacking, it is said that sometimes even that person was whipped. And I remember the first generation saying in their own way, the luna would say, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, which means hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So that still resonates when all these things come about. And my father went on to say that your grandfather did not believe in that. When he saw either someone being whipped or he himself being attacked by the whip, in one instant he grabbed the whip and he pulled the luna off on the horse. My father never went to elaborate what happened after that, but I'm sure there are repercussions. So when I think about that, and I think about what we have endured, or what they've endured, and how we enjoy the so-called American way of life, as we reflect upon what's going on now, are we holding up to their dreams of what America is? Are we holding back what we should be doing? As I mentioned earlier, Shakyamuni faced what is known as discrimination in the form of the caste system. And during his lifetime, he was able to do away with the caste system. Although it's was spoken of lightly, I'm sure there are many, many things that went on that had to take place. So he used to say that the path to achieve what you so desire, what we call as being equality among men, is not easy. But it begins with me. I had to think very hard, and it really hurt me to see what went on almost for 2 weeks. And although we try to practice compassion, and we do have the Eightfold Path, the Noble Truths to guide us, there's nothing in there that says you should not stand up for what you believe for. I believe that it was meant to make us awaken to the truths of the things that are going around and take personal action through speech, thoughts, and words to what you think is important. So as I went over what the New York Buddhist Church has come up with, it makes me feel proud that I have to decide for myself to overcome what is going on in my background, living in Hawaii, but to see what is real, true and real, what's going on in New York City. I don't live in Hawaii anymore. I live here. I wanted to be here, and so therefore I need to be engaged. It's a very personal question and my decision for myself, and I do ask the board of directors that this is not just one issue. There are many, many issues that we look into them. We can't save or we can't answer all the issues that surround us, but we should look at each one, hopefully to come up with something. As I say to my fellow ministers throughout the USA, Buddhism has the answer. Why are we keeping quiet? Why are we not taking action? It's all there in the Four Noble Truths, which includes the Eightfold Path. What are we doing? As Asians, sometimes I have to say, well, this is how we're raised, not to cause chaos, but in a hopeful, mindful, and peaceful way, make changes possible. Change begins with me, and unless I take a stance, nothing will happen. By the way, people tell me that to not say anything also is taking a stance. So we need to take an engaged way, because I believe Shakyamuni's actions, when it came to bringing down the caste system was a way of saying we need to get involved. Speech, action, and thought in some way, but in a mindful and peaceful way. But I left out a paragraph here on the statement. So I'd like to read this statement one more time and have all of you think about it. Statement for the New York Buddhist Church. The New York Buddhist Church deplores all forms of racism, oppression, and injustice. Everyone deserves to be heard and treated with dignity and respect, and to live without fear of emotional or physical abuse. Recent events have once again shown to us how our country and society will not and should not remain silent when discrimination results in shocking and needless deaths. We cannot accept acts of racism and injustice. We cannot accept any institutional support, implicit or otherwise, of those acts. As a Buddhist community, Sangha, we stand with Black Lives Matter and all people who peacefully protest social injustice and equality and who seek a more equal and just society. Our value statements affirm that we listen, speak, and act with compassion, respect, and gratitude because we believe that everyone can be enlightened. Let's continue to listen deeply, have open hearts and understanding minds, and ally ourselves with those seeking a world where everyone is treated with respect, dignity, and compassion. Let's commit ourselves to these actions as a community. Namo Amida Butsu. The first opening statement in this paragraph states it all. The New York Buddhist Church, we, also including as individuals, deplore all forms of racism, oppression, and injustice. Everyone deserves to be heard and treated with dignity and respect, and to live without fear of emotional or physical abuse. Buddhism strives for equality. But there's also a very famous passage that may be applicable to this time. And it's just a reminder of what Shakyamuni had said. This comes from a collection of Shakyamuni's sayings, and I'm sure all of you have heard it before, but perhaps this is a good reminder. Hatred, excuse me, hatreds never cease by hatreds in this world. By love alone do they cease. This is an ancient law. Hatreds never cease by hatreds in this world. By love alone do they cease. This is an ancient law from the words of Shakyamuni Buddha. So let us bear in mind what these words say and who and what we are, what our teachings represent. Take to heart and do our part in making America what it should be. As I've said many, many times, I'm proud to be an American. And yet, I ask myself, what am I doing to cause so much chaos? As an individual, it may be difficult, but collectively, as a community, as a Sangha, perhaps we can together move mountains. So I ask you to look deep within yourselves, and the answers are all there within the Dharma. You yourself awaken and make a commitment. As my good friend, the professor, would say, if Shinran was here, he would go. So I too would like to believe that this is what we represent. In reflecting for all that we do, I thank all of you for supporting our temple. I support all of you for believing in and trusting in the words Namo Amida Butsu, which brings together the compassionate heart of mind of the Buddha. And we, realizing what it means, do our part to make Namo Amida Butsu in different ways shared and known throughout the world. How grateful we should be. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Will everyone please join me in singing our closing gatha, O Nembutsu. Namu Amida, Namu Nam Amida Butsu. Nam Amida. Nam Amida Butsu. Namandav, Samandav, Samandav. Namandav, Samandav, Samandav.
Thank you for joining us for today's service. If you came in late, that is okay. You may watch it replayed in full on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/New York Buddhist Church. And if you have questions for Reverend Earl, please go to the New York Buddhist Church's website, newyorkbuddhistchurch.org, and click on Contact Us. Your questions will be forwarded to Reverend Earl, and he may even answer live during our next service. You may also read Reverend Earl's weekly messages there. We have implemented online donations on our website. We greatly appreciate your dana, your donations. You may also download your yearly membership form from our website. New York Buddhist Church is a nonprofit that relies on your donations to operate on an ongoing basis and provide ongoing support for our mission of sharing the Buddha Dharma and the teachings of Shinran Shonin. Please support. Namo Amida Butsu.